The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. We're lucky this evening to have a great Hong Kong film star, a humanitarian, a knight. His name is Sir Vincent Lyn, and he's our guest for the evening. Welcome.
Alan, good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you again. That's it. It's funny. Really quickly, I saw Tyne Daly after working with her on Cagney and Lacey for like 3.5 years, 30 years later. And she said, "It's nice to meet you again." You know, so right, after working with her.
Did you really mean it?
Yeah, who knows? She was just being a sweetie.
Oh, okay, good.
So you're a Hong Kong film star. It's
some say that. Yes.
Yeah, well, I say that. I mean, I've seen you were on the show. This isn't the first. You've been on the show before, and you did. You know, I brought some clips in years ago, and I was always amazed at the stuff you were able to do, and it, you know, it doesn't even look like it's choreographed. It looks like it's real. I mean, when you know, so how did you get into to showbiz?
How? A friend of mine is a well-known photographer in New York. One day, after doing a shoot, he said, "Have you ever thought of, going to Hong Kong to do film?" I said,
Right, you were also a model, right?
Yes. So I was modeling at the time, and he said, you martial arts, you got a great look. I said, well, yeah. I said, but you're bringing it up, so do you know of someone there? And a friend of his was a producer, and so he said, look, send your photos, your resume, and you should be proactive and take a flight and go out there and meet with these people. Wow. So, yeah, I flew out to Hong Kong, and I met with actually 4 different film companies, and 2 of them didn't have anything in the works. Golden Harvest, which was the largest film company, that's the one that put Bruce Lee on the map. Wow. And Jackie Chan. They said, well, you have a great look. If you stay for a while, I'm sure something will happen. I'm like, I don't have the money to do that. But then a relatively new company that was started by the Hong Kong entrepreneur Dixon Poon, he was at all sorts of entrepreneurial businesses, and he married the famous actress Michelle Yeoh, who was one of the Bond girls and has been in so many amazing films. And so they were in production of a film called Tiger Cage, and I auditioned, and they, long story short, they just said, we're going to use you as the main lead villain. Wow. And yeah, it wasn't a lot of screen time, but my persona had a real power and memorable. And it became this huge film throughout Asia. So,
do you like playing the villain more than you like playing the hero? Or
I don't know. I've never played the hero. Oh. I am a heroic villain, though.
Right.
So I always say, I've played the villain like some 24 times, and I've died 24 different ways.
Wow.
But well.
And so. When you're doing a martial arts film, because that's, I guess,
yes, it's martial arts action. Yeah.
How long? I mean, the whole choreography, I guess, like boxing films also, but it's probably even more dynamic in certain ways. How long does it take to learn the choreography of these things before you actually film? And I mean, how long is the rehearsals for these movies?
The rehearsals can be not very long. Oh. It can kind of be. Okay, we'll show you a few times. You can run it a few times with the stunt people. Then you practice a couple of times with the whomever the star, whomever, right. And then you're going to shoot. But the thing is, the amount of times the amount of takes right. can be dozens, can be 20, 30, 40 takes. Which would never happen in Hollywood, of course.
Right.
Yeah, because Hong Kong's film was famous of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So a typical day of shooting, how many hours?
12, 14.
Wow. Yeah. And you have to be looking good for that.
You try.
Yeah. That's amazing. So what was the name of the film, the first film?
The first film was called Tiger Cage, and it was directed by one of the most famous action directors in the world, Yuen Woo-ping. He was the one who was famous for action directing films like the Matrix trilogy,
Wow.
Kill Bill sequels, Charlie's Angels sequels.
So what was it? I mean, you rap, right? And it takes a while for them to edit, and then all of a sudden it hits.
Right.
It hits big, right? What was that? I mean, when all of a sudden, like, you went from obscurity, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
who's this guy?
No, you're a handsome man. You did modeling and all this other stuff, and you're also a pianist, all this stuff. You have all this stuff, but all of a sudden you go from in quotes, being like a nobody in a
Yeah,
way,
sure, of course, I was.
to like the world seeing you. I mean, what was that like?
Well, I think at first it didn't really hit me, you know, and you know, I'll remember of the premiere of Tiger Cage, and of course cinema was packed. I was sitting in the audience with some friends, and I knew my first scene is coming up, you know, and it was a profile shot. I'm sitting at this big table, wearing the silk suits and everything, you know, and all I saw was my nose. I'm like, oh my God, my nose.
My
You know, that's the other
nose.
thing. But the thing is, you know, when the film was over and the audience just stood up and went crazy, you know. And then as I'm coming out of the cinema, you know, people were then like, hey, look, that's who, you know. And so it was very, it was surreal. I mean,
Right.
it was very, yeah, great for my ego. It surely boosted my ego, and you know, you play up on these types of things, but it didn't really hit me right away. It took a while. Yeah.
And then, you know, we discussed earlier also about, like, after a film, even, I mean, it's real, it's surreal, everything's crazy, and then all of a sudden, what's next?
Yes,
I mean, you're in that
yes.
situation where when you finish a film, that's it. Unless you have like a multi-film contract.
Of course.
It's like,
Yeah.
you don't know what's happening next.
You
right?
don't, and I had no idea.
Right.
You know, my idea was, I went to Hong Kong by luck, maybe a little, you know, divine providence. I got this film role,
Right.
and the film was huge. But then my plan was to do one film and go back home and actually open up a martial arts school. But
Interesting.
within a week or so, when I was actually ready to go home, I got a call asking me to go back to Golden Harvest and shoot a film with the then action film star Cynthia Rothrock. And so, yeah, and that's basically what happened. It became this snowball effect. And it happened pretty quickly, yeah.
So when you were living in Hong Kong at the time, when you'd walk down the street, after a while, what was it like? I mean, it must have been crazy.
Yeah, it was a bit, you know, and you, one must say one took advantage of that.
I'm sure.
Of the, whatever you want to call it, notoriety, fame, yeah, of course. And I'm, you know, being much younger, you kind of play on it because it's a whole ego trip, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
not only the ego trip of the notoriety, but the ego trip of the money too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked on a series for a few years, which there was money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I never really had, I never made it beyond like, you know, like the also credits, you know what I mean?
Okay. But that's it. That's what
but it's
happened.
still
You know,
an
you start and you drive the fancy. I drove Porsche and all this, and Lotus, and you
But
know,
it's so intoxicating, even at the
It
lower
is,
level.
it's very
even for
dangerous.
me when I was living in Hollywood, and I never made the heights.
Yeah.
But it was intoxicating. It was
of course,
just,
it's
totally
extremely intoxicating. Yeah.
Nothing like it. I mean, to me,
Nothing like it, but you know, it can, like so many Hollywood stars, look what happens to them. You know.
right. Well, at least, I mean, it didn't happen to you. I mean,
Well.
I mean, I'm saying,
Yeah.
you're here still. Is what I'm saying.
Yes. No, I didn't.
mean,
Drugs was never part of my lifestyle. Alcohol never been a part of my lifestyle.
Right.
Unfortunately, my drug of choice was the female,
Right.
you know, side of things, and that
And it's
can
tough.
be a drug
I mean,
too.
when you're a martial artist and you're on, and you know,
Yeah.
you're in films where you're shirtless and you know you're flying through the air. I mean, it makes you almost look like a Superman in certain ways, and women expect that, you know,
Of course.
off the screen as well.
The one, you know, I would say the one thing it did was I was able to utilize all the other talents that I bring them to the forefront.
Right.
And so, you know, I started writing music for Polygram Records there, and of course modeling. Then I was signed with the Elite Agency, which is the largest in the world. So I was able to, things that had maybe put me there in the first place, now I was doing all of them.
But it's also, I mean, it's different. You're a different type of artist, you know. I mean, you know, you're the martial artist and you're the musical artist. You know, I mean, you have different ways. I mean,
Of expressing myself?
That's it, of expressing yourself. But also, how many
Not
martial
to take
artists?
Bruce Lee's line.
I'm sorry?
Not to take Bruce Lee's line.
Oh, that was his.
That
That
was
was
his. Something about expressing oneself. You know?
But you know, there's many sides to you, to Sir Vincent Lyn.
There are. There is. There are.
There is and there are.
Yeah.
I mean, you were knighted,
Yes, I was.
and that was not for your acting, right?
No, definitely not for
No,
my
but I mean,
acting.
you're a person who's achieved the highest heights in different. I mean, you know, you've gone. You work for the UN now, but you know, as an actor, as a musician, you've played Carnegie Hall. I mean, all the things that any one of those things
Would be.
would be an accomplishment that that a person would dream of. But you've been able to live many lives.
I have. Yeah.
And,
Certainly living another one now. Yeah.
So how do you keep it all together? I mean, like, do you get bored I mean, what is it? Or do you just have so many interests? Or what is it?
It's a tough thing balancing, because I know, like, I need to do. It's time, because it's been a couple of years since the last Carnegie concert.
Right.
So I know it's time to do another one.
Right.
I know also I have to be mentally put other things aside and say, okay, hundreds of hours of practice for one evening.
And your mom is a musician, right?
She was, yes.
She was a musician. Because I remember.
She'll always be a musician.
No, but I remember from. I mean, was she your inspiration for
Yes,
music?
my first teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that from
So when
a few years ago
when
we
I
had
played the first Carnegie Hall concert in 2011, for her to be there, you know, with my father, of course, this is the height. You can't get any bigger than playing Carnegie.
Right. So, you know, could you tell the audience about a video that we're going to be sharing with them?
Yes, it is. It's called The Arrow Factory. It's a show that was put together by a young Chinese entrepreneur. He came up with this entertainment app for the young Chinese on the go. Nobody has time to sit and watch a 30-minute show anymore. It's like, oh, that's cool. You know, that last 4 minutes, which is about my attention span. And it became this huge thing throughout China. Is actually what you're about to see has gotten over 20 million hits.
Right.
So.
And I think it's interesting. I'm just so happy that I've been able to, like, this is the third time that we've gotten together.
I think, yes, it is.
We've done 6 episodes, but it's the third time we've got.
And I thought it was like last year, but I guess I haven't seen you in 2 years.
But to me, it's like, it's always interesting because you always are doing something that's so remarkable.
Thank you.
and scary.
Oh, well, okay.
Sometimes too. But let's take a look at the video.
Yes,
I'm
please.
really interested in this.
Yeah. When I was young, everything was about how fast I could kick, how fast I could punch. And when I met my father's older brother, who was a master of Tai Chi and Qigong, when I would watch him practice, I would say, man, that's so boring. God, it's so slow, you know. I didn't understand what he was doing and what it was he was practicing. It took me 2 decades to realize it's about internal and about healing. My name is Vincent Lyn. My mom's from England, my father is Chinese, so I'm a best of both worlds. I got music from my mom and martial arts from my father's side of the family. The kung fu that has been in my father's family for many, many generations, and we can actually date it back to the beginning of the Ming Dynasty, which is 1368. It's simply my love. 1988, I moved to Hong Kong and co-starred in like some of the most famous Hong Kong films of what they call the golden era of Hong Kong film.
This guy here is Vincent.
The famous fight scene in Operation Condor, we're all wired up flying around this wind tunnel. I'm being launched through the air. Of course, my head hit the back, and of course, cracked the back of my head open. From then, you know, one film, it was a snowball effect. But it was because of that that I got into the modeling. And then I got signed with Elite, you know, which is the biggest agency in the world. But, you know, I look at a lot of different artists and their careers. They actually have talent not in just one area, you know, and that happened to me. I would hear my mom playing the piano all the time, and so I got interested just by hearing. It's like air that I breathe, you know, I couldn't be without them. Both of the art forms I've been practicing have kind of paralleled themselves. It's like a marriage between both. Focus here, there you go. Again, a little looser, so you're gonna sweep backwards first. I look at students I've had who received their first black sash, first black belt, which takes about a decade. But as I've told them, all they are, they're an advanced beginner. Tenacity, discipline. I've been doing it my whole life, yet I don't know if I'll have another 5 decades to spend, but as your maturity and life experience evolves, and we all must evolve, the playing, the practice evolves as well.
That was beautiful. That's it. And it's your life.
It is. In a nutshell.
It was nice seeing your parents.
Ah, yes.
Even though your dad was a warrior, you seemed like a regular guy. You know?
Just like me.
I know. It seemed like you came from a very sweet family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you decided to act, I'm sure your mother was okay with it because of her art.
Yeah,
was she?
of course.
Was your dad okay with it, or was it something that was like, oh no?
Yeah. Well, my father always wanted me to, you know, go to school for business like he did.
Right.
But when I got accepted to Boston Conservatory of Music,
Right.
of course, there was no questions. That was it. That was my course. Yeah.
So when you were going to school at the conservatory, what was that like? I mean, did you get a lot out of it, or
no? I didn't get as much as I probably should have, because you know the martial arts again was such an important part of my life.
Right.
If I wasn't putting the 5-6 hours of practice, piano practice, the rest of the time I was out on the Fenway or wherever, you know, doing the martial arts practice.
Are you still doing it every day?
Yeah.
How many hours a day?
You mean today?
No, not today. I mean, just in general.
God,
do
at
you
that
do it-
point, as much as I possibly could. Yeah.
And is that where you feel that, you know, like the best? Or is I don't know.
It's always been, you know, there was some articles written many years calling me the odd couple, you know, and I've felt that way in many times. It's one overtakes the other, and it's always been for me trying to balance both.
Right.
My whole life has been this kind of yin and yang, you know, trying to balance both, and it's been difficult at times.
I guess, you know, so there's a new project that's,
yes.
that some filmmaker,
Yes.
an awesome filmmaker, has come and asked you if you wanted to be a part of. Is
It's
that correct?
it's a British film company called Razor Edge Films, based in London. They do feature films, they do documentaries, and The actual gentleman who owns it, who runs it, his name is Winston Ellis. And interestingly enough, we met having not seen each other for 30 years.
Wow.
Just recently in New York at the HBO Cinemat sponsored event that brought many of my compatriots, colleagues from the Hong Kong film days together.
Mm-hmm.
And Winston came from London, and so we hadn't seen each other. The last time was in Hong Kong doing film.
Wow.
So very, proud of what he's also done and been able to achieve, and had a very successful career in acting. He's been in all the Pirates films, and he's in the new Bond film, and so forth. So, and he started this company, and so we haven't spoken, we haven't seen each other, but interestingly, he told me he's been following my change of life in the humanitarian field in the past 3-4 years, and seeing these videos from Facebook of bombs going off and bullets and all this kind of, and he's wondering, what on earth is Vincent doing these days? Wondering why would he go from this life to this, know? And so that's the premise of what the documentary is, and it makes all the sense in the world.
It seems interesting, right? Because it's almost like fantasy, crazy world to reality of crazy world. And,
exactly.
And fantasy crazy world, you just put on makeup and you go in front of a camera. But in reality, I mean, this is the world that you live in now. Is saving kids' lives, right? I mean, you're the founder of, what's the name of the organization?
We Can Save Children.
That's it. We Can Save .org.
.org. Don't forget that.
Right.
The nonprofit.
But it's, I mean, you put your life on the line, just like you did it on film before. But that was kind of, even though you hurt yourself.
I got hurt a few times, but not like what can happen going to a conflict zone.
This documentary is going to be fascinating.
I think it will be amazing, and they really want to delve deep, into what's driven me to do this. So, and obviously they're going to have to be interviewing my family, my son, and other people that are close to me. And
I have a feeling that you're going to wind up learning more about yourself in this process as well.
Probably will. I think I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of crying going on, but that's okay.
But I bet you that's going to make it even better. It's like, because I think you're going to come with this epiphany of certain things that I mean, maybe some of the reasons why you are who you are. I mean, it might be not that you need healing, but it might be something like something like that might happen.
I think we all need healing in some. I certainly do. And when I go away to, for instance, coming back from Iraq earlier in the year, or recently from Syria, I have to go through kind of a decompression, and I have these kind of highs and lows, and all of a sudden I get really deeply involved and feel like I need to get back there as soon as possible. But I know I need to decompress. When I feel that way, then I realize, no, you need to just stay put.
Right. Yeah. And you could get a lot done staying put also.
I can. I mean, I don't have to be on the ground.
You can inspire people, which you do, you know, and you have people that you work with that I'm sure you've inspired in your organization. And
oh, I must mention.
Yes.
This is really amazing. I mean, a big surprise to me. Tomorrow is Human Rights Day, International Human Rights Day throughout the world at the UN. And I actually got voted in the top 100 people in the world for human rights defenders. So I'm actually in there with quite some amazing people. The Prime Minister Khan of Pakistan. I'm in there with Antonio Guterres, which is the General Secretary of the United Nations, Queen Diambi, Her Majesty from Congo, and other people. So why Vincent Lyn is on that list, I don't know, but God bless them.
I could say, because you're dedicated to saving the children of the world. saving children that can't save themselves, who have no other heroes looking out for them than you and your organization.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you beat that?
I'm very humbled and honored, to be in that list, and obviously tomorrow I will be at the UN. And
the other thing is, I know you're not looking for these accolades. I mean, your motivation is within, and that's what makes it. It's always the people who are the ones who aren't looking for it that do it from a point of like really doing good in the world.
Enough of the titles and the this and
but
the that.
But it's wonderful that
it's nice.
Getting appreciation.
This is a nice thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To be acknowledged, because a lot of people do good things in the world and they never get any acknowledgement, and they don't do it for acknowledgement. But it's good that you have people who don't deserve acknowledgement that have acknowledgement in politics and all this other stuff. It's good to see a human being that's actually trying to help people. Be in the company of other people who are trying to help people and being acknowledged. And really congratulations, and you deserve it. I mean, there's no question that you deserve it. It's. I'm too busy just concerned about doing this show and
That's okay.
and trying to act, but you're out there actually doing it. You're actually helping people, saving people's lives. I mean, how many kids have you saved? I mean, it's tremendous. It's wonderful work. And it must make when you wake up in the morning, other than when you're having post-traumatic stress disorder.
And I've had that a little.
But you must think, wow, I've made a difference in this world, It has to be a good feeling.
The interesting thing is I don't think that, though. I know I have, but I feel like...
You haven't done enough, right? You told me that 2 years. I remember, as I said,
I always feel like I need to do more.
Right.
I don't think you can never do
because there's always more kids that need saving.
Wherever, there's always someone to save.
There's someone who needs saving. But at least you're motivated to do that. Other people, I go to work every morning, take the subway, come home, and watch TV. Okay. So there's a different. Your life is. I'm going to go out.
I'm not ready for that.
I'm to the worst places in the world.
Yeah.
And try to make them better.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're inspirational to me, but of course, no matter how inspirational you are, there's just one thing left to say. That's a wrap. Good night, folks.